sending individual transactions to these mining pools, and then the mining pools were sort of building, the rest of that block. So it was we started with 1 transaction per block, and then eventually got to like 3 to 4. And then towards the end, there were sort of very large parts of the block that Flashbots could build, and then the mining pool operator would sort of locally add the rest of the transactions. And when the merge approached, we decided to change the way that this works for a couple of reasons. So the main one is that you don't have the concept of mining pools in proof of stake, because validators in proof of work, so if you have one pool, creating the block for many so-called workers, sort of the actual machines that are hashing. And so we sort of, as Flashbots, we had this very natural endpoint that we could connect to, and that was sort of had a lot of skin in the game, etc. And we could send them the bundles without having to be very concerned that they would steal the MEV, which would sort of destroy the whole point of the auction. And this basic infrastructure didn't exist. So when you want proposers to be able to participate in this auction, then you needed a way, for sort of the searchers who are on the other side of this market, not to have to trust them. And so we set it on sort of a design that used a sort of a similar commit reveal scheme that exists between pool operators and workers in proof of work, where in proof of work the workers, they sort of hash a block header that's given to them by the pool operator without knowing what's in it. And so we replicated this structure and sort of adapted it to proof of stake, where now sort of we also send a block header to the proposer, and then the proposer signs the block header without knowing what's in the block. And so and this has the benefit that now all proposers can have access to MEV, whereas in proof of work you had to be a mining pool. So that's one benefit. The second was that on Ethereum's roadmap, client diversity was a huge thing. So they wanted there to be many different consensus layer clients, and so we didn't have this sort of one client that we could copy anymore, which we had in Geth in proof of work. So we knew that Flashbots needed to be compatible with all of the clients, and so from the start we designed it as this sort of this sidecar infrastructure that is sort of totally independent of what client is used, and sort of we ended up with a design that allows the proposer so to download this piece of software that's called MathBoost that they run next to their consensus layer client, and instead of a couple bundles, they were getting sort of this full block from Flashbots as a block build, the so-called block builder. And then they could sign that blindly without knowing what's in it. And sort of then we would release the block body and they can publish that to the network. And yeah, it turns out, I mean, I'm sure we will get into that. It turns out that this approach also has some downsides because sort of the transaction ordering preference and get sort of applied to the whole network, because this collaborative block building between what used to be sort of Flashbots just providing some bundles and the mining pool providing the rest of the transactions no longer exists, right? And so yeah, I would say that's kind of the main motivation for why we changed to this market structure, and it had sort of the very positive side